are you? Hope you're having a great day. We're here to promote fruits and vegetables. I love fruit and veg from Europe. This is what we're promoting today. So what I'm going to prepare is a very classic dessert, French style. Traditionally, it's apple tarte tatin, but I'm using pears this time because I found some really nice pears in the market, in the grocery store. So I thought I'm going to be a bit whimsical. I'm going to do something a bit different. So not a great amount of difference between pears and apples, but of course flavor-wise. But generally they're the same type of fruit. Without further ado, I'm going to start. So I got a handful of them here. I actually pre-peeled them, but here, this is the brand I have. You want to use just a normal peeler. Just take off the least amount of skin as possible, because obviously you want as much fruit as you can. The peel you can keep on if you want, but sometimes the peel becomes a bit leathery, in the baking process. So it's better just to cut it off. At least with the pears, apples, these type of fruits. When you cook them, the flesh itself, softens up nicely. And like I said, whether it's an apple or it's a pear, usually the skin just turns a bit leathery. It doesn't absorb moisture, not a lot anyway. So just simply peel them just like that. Yeah. Now, there's different ways I've seen people do this here. You can cut them in half and then just layer them in a pan. You can cut them in quarters. You can slice them really thinly and then build up, like 9, 10 layers, so it's nicely compacted. That's quite nice to do. A bit time consuming. We don't have that time today. So I'm just going to do it really simple here. These pears are a little bit firm. So being a little bit firm, they're going to cook a little bit longer, or take a while anyways. So I'm not going to do halves. I'm going to cut them into sixths, not quarters, sixths. This reason why is they'll cook a little bit quicker this way. Even still, it'll take probably a good 10 minutes or so to cook nicely. But that's what we're looking for there. Just nice little wedges, just like that. Yeah. So slice those up like that. I got a couple more already peeled in advance. Now, once I have all these prepared, you can do this in advance if you want. There's a little bit of preparation involved. So do these in advance. Give them a squeeze of lemon juice so that they don't turn brown. As you know, pears, just like apples, they do turn brown, oxidize. So I don't want that to happen. Even though they're going to be baked, we're going to be making a caramel here, tossing them in the caramel. So they're going to all be brown anyway, but still, oxidizing fruits, it does change the flavor a little bit. Depends on how long you keep them out, of course. So I'm going to try and do 2 versions today if I have enough apples. I'm going to do in a cake tin. And I'm going to do it in an individual ramekin as well. So you might see in some restaurants, fine dining restaurants, they do them in small little individual portions, nicely done. Again, it's a little bit more time consuming, to do something like that instead of a whole one. Whole one is nice, it's quite easy to do. And because there's a lot of sugar in it, they tend to stick to the pan quite easily. So you want to make sure that if you're using a good Teflon pan, even with a good Teflon pan, you need to use some baking spray of some kind. So here I'm just giving a little squeeze of lemon. Doesn't take much. Yeah. Toss it. Yeah. We'll let that sit a few minutes. I'll cut one more. Now, while that is going, I'm going to turn on my pan just to warm up my saucepan here, my frying pan. In this frying pan here, I'm going to start caramelizing some sugar till I get a nice dark brown, almost burnt look to it. Just before that stage, then I'm going to add a little bit of butter and a little bit of cream to make a nice caramel from it. Yeah, and from that caramel, once it's all homogeneous, then I'm going to throw the fruit in, stir it, and then just continue to stir that on medium-high heat. You don't want to cook it on too low because the fruit will cook longer and it'll get soft and a bit mushy. Even some of the best baking pears and the best baking apples, as well. So what I want to do is cook it relatively quickly, soften it up, get those caramel flavors in there, and still keep the crunchiness inside the fruit. Because this is important also, right? You don't want to eat a mushy pie. There should be a little bit of texture in there, right? So that's getting warm. So sprinkle the sugar into the bottom of the pan. Now, when making a caramel, it's very important not to stir the pan. Yeah, not to stir the pan. Just let that slowly, let the sugar slowly melt. Yeah, you see it slowly start there. You can see a little bit melting in the center. So that's good. Yeah, you want to keep it on relatively medium-high heat. And watch it. Keep an eye on it, of course. At one point, we're going to have to stir it for sure, but not at the early stage here. I'm just going to let that slowly melt nicely. And you can see it's starting to caramelize in the center a little bit. Yeah, so good, keep an eye on it. I got a high heat spatula that I'm going to use. If you have a wooden spoon also, that's fine as well. Not too many people have wooden spoons these days. Now this here is a vanilla pod. Yeah. So this one is a nice fat one. So it's got a lot of seeds inside. I'm going to enjoy using this one here. So there you can see it starting to burn there, starting to turn into a liquid. Now what I'm going to do is sprinkle a little bit of, I've got some wonderful stuff here from Canada, maple sugar. Yeah. This will give it a nice flavor. But this will burn relatively quickly, so it's very important, and I'll keep your eye on it very closely. So I'm going to give that a toss and reduce the heat a little bit. My vanilla pod, I'm going to split right down the center. Yeah, open it up and see all those lovely seeds on the inside. That's the flavor that we want. Now at this point here, all the sugar is melted except for a couple little bits here and there. I'm going to give it a stir, and you can see it's smoking a bit. So this is we want to be able to stop the cooking process right there. So I'm going to take a little bit of butter. Yeah, put that in there. Now be very careful when you add the butter here. It's quite cold, right? So this here will spatter. So it's very careful. Yeah. One reason why I'm wearing gloves. So there we go. See that? And it smells nice. You get the caramelly flavor, and the butter's as it's starting to slightly burn a little bit. It's has a nutty aroma to it. Then I'll add a little bit of cream. And slowly let that absorb. Yeah, there we go. A little bit more cream. You want to add just a little bit at a time. You don't want to add it too quickly, because again, it'll spatter back at you. And there's a few burns that are less or more painful than a sugar burn, trust me. So putting a healthy amount of cream in there, this will give it a really smooth, silky texture. Now at this point here, I'm going to take my vanilla, split that down. Look at all that. Yeah. Beautiful flavor. So once that heats up, you should get the nice smell of vanilla also. Just a touch more cream, just to get that texture I'm looking for. And as soon as I get all the vanilla mixed in, there we go. I think it's almost ready. So you see it's quite dark, bubbling nicely. Take very, very careful care at this point here, right? Okay. So pears, carefully, put them in. Pears are quite cold as well, so that might spit back at you. Yeah. Now this is the point where I was saying you don't want to cook slowly. You want to cook relatively medium-high heat. Now the sugar is not going to cook any further. Yeah, it's not going to burn any further because we're adding number one, something that's cold. It's going to cool it down, and also from the pears, once they start cooking, a lot of liquid is going to come out of it, right? So this is going to dilute the sugar mixture. Yeah, and you'll see that over the next few minutes here, this is going to coat nicely. At this point here, you don't want to walk away from the stove, at least not very far. Yeah, you want to keep an eye on this because if you, even a medium-high, high heat, this can get away on you if you're not careful. So this will take a good, probably 8 minutes, something like that, at this pace here, at this boiling speed. Yeah. So I had just cooked the batch off just before I came on air. Yeah. So I'm going to continue to simmer this next to my next to the table here. I have another one. I'll continue to cook over here, and these ones here I'm just finishing cooking, just on my other range top. Now you see these are nicely coated. They've shrunk in size a little bit because they lost a lot of moisture. You want to continue cooking it and stirring it a little bit, during that from the pan I just showed you earlier. So all the moisture boils off, basically. All the water boils off. So what's happening is all the flavors from the pears, the water is being evaporated, but all the flavors are, getting mixed in with the caramel. Yeah. So this is done. That was probably about 8 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do now is, this is my baking pan I'm using. So this one here is one of those quick release ones. I'm using this here because sometimes, the sugar, when you're layering it in the pan, sometimes it can get stuck, and then it's really difficult to get it out. Because what's going to happen here is I'm going to do it in a pinwheel style onto the pan, and then put a puff pastry cover on the top. Bake it like that, and then once that's done, I'll let it cool, and then I'll invert that onto a plate, and it's ready to serve. So this is a Teflon pan, and also I sprayed it with the butter baking spray. Yeah. So this is quite warm here. I don't want to put it on my marble table, even though marble tables are pretty resilient. So I'm going to take these pears. Still quite hot. I'll just show you in a minute here what I'm doing. Smells wonderful. Making me hungry. Now, Canada is a great place with abundance of apples, pears, especially in the Okanagan region. I remember going there and June, July, or August, September. Loads of cherries, peaches, apricots. Wonderful stuff. Of course, I'm from Alberta, so maybe I'm a bit one-sided. I know down Eastern Canada as well, Niagara region, wonderful, a lot of fruit trees. All right, we're back online. All right, super. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a glitch in the Wi-Fi, but basically I finished my wonderful design of pears into the bottom of the pan. So it's directly on the pan. There's no paper sheet. There's no other kind of pastry, nothing. Just poured a little caramel in the bottom first, layered all those pears in there. Then whatever's left in here, we can't let a good thing go to waste. So where's my spatula? Yeah, we're going to take all those wonderful caramelly, buttery, caramelly, vanilla flavored, and pear also, pear juice. Onto the pears there as well. Now what goes on top is puff pastry. Right? Puff pastry, most of you know, is a layered pastry with butter or fat layers and dough, etc. Many, many times. In French, they call it millefeuille, or 1,000 leaves, sorry. Now, to do a traditional one, yeah, nobody's going to do this at home, right? But you can buy frozen pastry. Frozen pastry, it comes in a roll, frozen, and you can defrost it, roll it out, cut what you need. Unfortunately, I couldn't find that. So in the local grocery store that I shopped in, it had these little squares, which is fine also. Less convenient, but I made basically a little patchwork, here. Let them defrost, and then once they defrost, they're a little bit sticky, which is perfect. So I just joined them together, kind of pressed out a shape here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a shape that's going to fit in there. Just give me a moment. Okay. So there we are. My rudimentary, rustic-looking puff pastry base, but it's going to go on the top. And like I said, after baking, it's going to eventually be inverted, and nobody's going to see it anyway. So it doesn't have to be perfectly round. So as you see, it's a little bit bigger, which is fine because typically puff pastry shrinks quite a bit in the oven, unless you let it rest for a while. We're not going to give it any rest here. I'm going to pop it straight into the oven. I'm just kind of like just squeezing it into place. So if you can see there, it looks a bit rustic on the outside, which is fine. What's going to happen is once this puff pastry is in the oven, it gets up to temperature, the layers are going to push apart, so it's going to be a little ripply anyway. Yeah, but once it's baked and we invert it, the pastry becomes a little bit soft again. Some parts of it will be crispy and the very bottom will be, but the rest of it will stay nice and flaky. So there we go. I'm going to get a baking tray. I'm going to use the same one here. Yeah. Put this on the middle here. It's a good idea to have a baking tray that has a lip around the outside, because in a spring form release pan like this here, there'll be a little bit of sugar that comes out of it for sure. So when that happens, just be ready. Keep an eye on it for the first 10 minutes or so of baking. If you see some excess sugar, then just reach in very carefully with a paper towel or something like that. Wipe up that excess, because otherwise, if you leave it on the tray, what's going to happen is the sugar is going to start to burn, and you're going to get some smoke, and yeah, we don't want this to happen. So here we are. I'm going to pop this into the oven. Now this is going to bake at roughly 190 degrees for probably about 40 minutes. So I would recommend that you set your timer for 25 minutes and check on it. After 10 minutes, check to make sure there's not excess amount of sugar coming out. Wipe that up and then continue, keep an eye on it every 5 minutes or so. And Yeah, it should be around the 40-minute mark, right? The puff pastry in the top should be relatively dark, and just take it out, let it cool down, and once it's cool enough to touch, you can invert it. So now, also, I was working very late yesterday, so I had already prepared one exactly the same way. So you'll see that what it looks like. This is after 40 minutes of baking, right? So you can see that the layers kind of compressed a little bit together. It's a little bit burnt on the edges, but we're going to serve it with some nice vanilla ice cream. So this is going to meld really nicely, right? And I made a little individual one as well. So I had some leftover pears. And I'm going to do a little quick presentation here with some ice cream. So just give me a moment, and I'll show you a nice, easy trick. So we got our ice cream. Put that to the side. Put that to the side. So we've got one that I've transferred to a white plate now. This small one I transfer to a plate as well. And little lifter. Put one on there. Ideally, you want to slice this with my serrated knife. As you cut into it, and you still hear the puff pastry crack a little bit nicely. And the pears, they have a bit of resistance to it. So in other words, in the center part, it's still a little bit not raw, but it has a bit of how do they say al dente? Yeah, in Italy. Yeah. Now I'm going to take a little bit of maple sugar that I had left over. Yeah. Give it a bit of a sprinkle. And I made some caramel sauce. Also, kept it in the oven to make it nice and warm. This caramel sauce will have a nice sweet, buttery, creamy texture to it. But not there, quite easy to do. Not a lot of ingredients. Great in the afternoon, any time of year, if you ask me. During the summer, I mean, caramelized apples and ice cream, there's nothing better than that. Give it a try. Reach out, ask some questions. Happy to answer. And I hope you try it and enjoy. I'm going to enjoy this one for sure.
Yes, so we received some questions for you.
Right, okay.
The first one is, can I use different fruits?
Fruits, you can use different fruits. Traditionally, it's like apples, like I said, a hard type of fruit. The same type of, fibery structure, which is why I chose pears, because some were available here and they were quite nice. You can use peaches, you can use apricots, but those are soft fruits. So cooking them, you really probably very less, unless they're quite ripe. You could probably just cut them, put them in a pie tray or bake release pan, fresh, and then do it the same way. So, but you can use fruits, plums. You can use also. Experiment a little bit, no problem. Try apple first, or try pear. Try it this way, and once you get the feel of it and the process, then you can try some other fruits.
The second one is, can I use frozen apple or pears?
Frozen apples or pears? Yeah, for sure. After the defrosting process, they release a lot of moisture. So let them defrost totally. Pat them dry. You might need to squeeze them a little bit to get some moisture out, excess moisture. Then do the same thing. Caramelize the sugar. Add some butter, a little bit of cream until you have a nice, sticky mess. And then put your apples in. And they'll probably take a little bit longer to caramelize than a fresh apple or a fresh pear. But yeah, it'll work. It'll work.
Okay. The last one is, how should this be stored after baking?
Stored. Once it's baked like this, you can keep it at ambient, for the day. You can take it on picnics, for example. That's not a problem. They won't spoil. There's no eggs. There's no nothing that's hazardous. But once you put it in the refrigerator, what's going to happen is, because it does contain a lot of sugar, you'll see a lot of moisture that'll start developing. If you put it on a tray like this, on a plate, you see a lot of moisture on the bottom. And the longer that goes on, it'll soak all into the pastry, and it'll become soggy. So ideally, try and eat it as soon as you can. It'll be when the pastry is still crisp on the bottom. Any other questions? All right, great. Thank you very much. I hope you give it a try, because it's a fantastic classic. It hasn't changed much in I don't know how long it's been since I invented this, but it's been a long time. Simple dessert, and sometimes simplicity is the best. Yeah, take care and enjoy. And I love fruits from Europe. Thank you.